and welcome to Time Tunnel TV. Today we have another of our fantastic shows for you. We have 2 live performances and to get you rocking in your seats, an in-depth interview with the one, the only Smoking Joe Frazier, along with a news report and a documentary on the heavyweight champion. So let's kick off the show with a performance from Joe Frazier himself. Hey, whoa, indeed, you gave me a workout there. Thanks a lot for that amazing performance and really put us in the mood for that performance. Moving on, I feel I want to sit down and have a rest with Smoking Joe Frazier. Anyway, in a few minutes, we'll have an interview, but for the meantime, for those who don't know Big Joe, here's a little bit of information and a documentary on the life and times and achievements of him.
On January the 2nd, 1944, the world received a great champion, Joseph William Frazier, more commonly known as Smoking Joe. He was a man with much respect, a man with great courage, a man with many achievements. He was a world heavyweight champion boxer with a mighty record of 32 wins, 27 of these being knockouts, 4 losses and 1 draw. Joe Frazier was brought up on his father's 10-acre farm in Beaufort, South Carolina. At around the age of 7, his uncle Israel noticed Joe's stocky build and remarked, "That boy there will be another Joe Louis." He moved to New York in 1962, where he started his amateur career, winning the Middle Atlantic Golden Gloves Heavyweight Championships 3 years running. His only defeats in the 3 years were to Buster Mathis. Some believe Frazier was cheated out of this bout, but Frazier did not lose hope. He entered the Olympics and knocked out every opponent, and in the final he won by decision. In 1965, he turned professional after a TKO against Woody Goss. Come 1968, Frazier had a professional record of 19 wins and no losses. He faced his rival Mathis for recognition for the world champion. He didn't let the audience down after knocking him out in the 11th round. In 1970, he fought Jimmy Ellis for the heavyweight championship title, a man who had never been knocked down before. But Frazier didn't let this stop him and knocked Ellis down twice in the 4th, resulting in the fight being stopped in the 5th. Frazier went on 29 wins without 1 loss before he lost his title to George Foreman in 1973. On March the 8th, 1971, Frazier fought the undefeated Muhammad Ali, the beginning of a great rivalry, what some would say was one of the biggest fights of his career, one of the greatest in boxing history. Frazier stood at 5'11" with a reach of 73 inches, whereas Ali was 6'3" with a reach of 80 inches. The two fighters were very opposite both in style and personality. Frazier was a pure puncher, holding incredible power, whereas Ali was a crowd winner with beauty and grace. The fight was called the Fight of the Century. Held at Madison Square Gardens, the fight received a worldwide television audience. Frazier was 27 and at the peak of his career, physically and mentally. Frazier trained harder than ever with Futch, day in, day out, to create the perfect strategy to defeat his opponent. His homework paid off when he knocked Ali down in the 15th round. He went on to win by unanimous decision. The strategy was created by the likeliness that Ali would throw the right hand uppercut from straight standing position after dropping the arm to throw with force. Frazier was instructed to throw a left hook in which he thought Ali's head would be positioned a second later. It was a strategy that helped Frazier see the unanimous decision at the end of 15 rounds. It was a brutally competitive bout. Ali came out better, mixing clever combinations to win a number of early rounds. But as he started to tire, Fraser came on strong, mixing hard shots to the body as well as well-known devastating left hooks to the head. After his boxing career, he set up a soul band called Joe Frazier and the Knockouts. He also made an appearance in the hit movie Rocky, dedicating himself to a gym in Philadelphia. He was a man of much respect who is recognised throughout many generations for his excellent boxing career. He was a fighter with immense dedication to his work, a perfectionist. Nobody could do what he did as well as him. Nobody could break a man up as quickly, as easily as Smoking Joe. He was an incredibly powerful boxer who deserved every little thing he achieved. With an ending career record of 32 wins, 4 losses and 1 draw, he has every right to be looked up at as an idol to everyone who or wants to be involved with the beautiful sport of boxing. Fraser was one of the greatest who helped inspire many other great champions within the sport. It's unfortunate that the hero cannot be here with us today, as on the 7th of November he sadly died of liver cancer at the age of 67. Joe Fraser will never be forgotten and will forever live within the sport of boxing.
I love Joe Frazier.
Smashing bit of film there with Don King at the end. Hopefully that short documentary has filled in the missing gaps for those that don't know about the heavyweight champion, and hopefully as this has been entertaining for you as well. I've been waiting for this moment for quite a considerable amount of time. It's the man himself. Put your hands together for, in the blue corner, we have Mr. Smoking Joe Frazier. Da-da-da, 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 da-da-da. All right. Go, Joe. In you come, mate. In you come. Watch you don't trip, our kid. Lovely stuff. Hey, you certainly still got it there at the age of 66 or whatever you are.
Oh,
That's
still got the
amazing,
moves. I still got the moves.
You gave me a good workout there beforehand anyway. How are we? How are we feeling in tickety health and all
Well,
that?
I'm in good health, you know. I'm not too well. Doctors saying that I've got, you know, liver complaints and so forth.
Yeah,
you know,
hey, you were born
I'm a
William
fighter.
Joe Frazier in 1944, just
That's right.
before the end of the Second World War there.
That's right.
Where were you brought up exactly in America, and how was your childhood growing
You
up?
need to understand it's very different then. I mean, we grew up on a farm.
Yeah.
Poverty, poor, we didn't know any difference, that's what we knew. But, you know, we had God in the family. For black people, that's all we had at them times was God. You know, back in America in them times, it was very different than it was now.
Well, there was a big divide between black and white people, wasn't it, until obviously the later 60s where you became the champion and you could have you had a bargaining tool, you had
That's
fame
right.
behind you. But beforehand, how did you feel as black people growing up in the sort of mid-20th century? How do you feel you were treated as humans?
Well, you know, people talk about second-class citizens. We were third, fourth class. You know, it was some sad times. That's just the way it was. I don't like to dwell on the past because, you know, what we were is what we become. And it's all part of who I am and what made me, you know, maybe the fight that I get, that's where it came from, you know? So we always look back with not just sadness, but with, you know, gratitude for all that God gave me. You know?
So academically, you weren't obviously really that bothered about your
I've never
academically
been the
and stuff.
brightest of people,
But
you know.
the fact is, Joe, you started boxing at the age of 14,
That's right.
58, and you got into boxing in 1960, where you actually defeated, looking at this, Jerry Quarry and Oscar Bavina. Apparently
right.
you beat those two guys, and you turned professional.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you became professional in 63, which is the year we're going to focus on with our news today, so we're going to take you back down memory lane. But what were some of those early bouts like? You were a heavyweight, you were 15 stone, like you say, 5'11".
You
It's about the
know,
average.
It's very different. I mean, as a kid, I grew up with Armstrong, you know, Rocky Marciano. Their style was like bob and weave, keep moving, you know, and you might hit me 4 times, but I'm going to hit you at least once, and my shot's going to be harder than yours. So, you know, that's the way we fought, you know.
Also, the big boxing guy at the time was actually Sonny Liston. Now, he was the main contender.
Oh, yeah.
He was the main champion
Yeah, he
in
was the main man at the
1962.
time then, yeah.
And obviously, there was another chap you might have heard of, Cassius Clay.
Oh, my
In
dear.
63, the Olympics. Now, you never went into the Olympics for some strange reason, but you never went down that road in 1960. You just became professional. In essence, you were professional before I.
Well, no. I mean, what happened was there was a young boxer, Buster Matthews, who was a good boxer, and I was like understudy. I was reserved, so I actually did go to the Olympics just as reserve.
Right.
Didn't think that he was going to be taking part, so, you know, but he wasn't a train. He was a good boxer, but he didn't train. I loved to train. I loved to fight. I kept myself ready. And when he wasn't able to take place, then I took his place.
So I suppose what you're trying to say
yeah.
is, as he was known then, Cassius Clay was more than natural ability, whereas you had to work hard to get where you got, whereas he became more naturally
we have our different styles. I mean, I'm as hard as Iron Man. My style has always been to wear you down, you know, keep going, keep going. The one thing no one can't say about me is that I wasn't a quitter or a fighter. I was always a fighter.
And obviously, the other thing, the big difference between you and Clay at the time in the 60s, he was more boisterous, he was more... He was a showman, whereas you were more of a hard-nosed fighter.
He had
got
a
in
lot
that ring,
to say,
and that's
you know.
what you didn't do any of that.
He had a lot to say. I really wanted to shut his mouth for him, but you know, I did, you know, a couple of times. But you know, give credit where it's due, man. He was he's a legend just as well, you know.
Well, if we move forward just a little bit to around the 1970s, 1971, which was one of the big fights of the century in 1971. You beat Doug Ellis on the way there too, actually fighting, and you fought Muhammad Ali.
That's right.
In 71.
That's right.
And you actually defeated him. 15 rounds. It was
that was 15 hard rounds. You know, I listened to my trainer. We know he is a good boxer, but you know, I thought he's not gonna knock me out. I don't care. He ain't gonna knock me down. And over 15 rounds, I was always confident I was going to get to him sooner or later, and you know, I got the victory.
Around this time as well, Muhammad Ali was the name in the frame. Cassius Clay had gone. He'd turned his religion to Islam.
That's
I mean, did you ever fancy becoming Islamic yourself and becoming something else like
No, you know,
somebody or other? Or?
My love was boxing and training, and that's all I knew. You know, I wasn't a very educated man, but I knew what was right and wrong, and I knew the path I wanted to do. I always wanted to be. I was told very early on that maybe I could do something in this sport and be a champion, and that's all I ever wanted to do, to be a world champion in boxing.
It appears as though it sort of fueled his fire to actually be with Ali, as though he needed that extra sort of love and that extra sort of recognition. You didn't seem to need that.
At the time, you know, I hated him and we fell out 3 times, but we've reconciled since then and talked about it, and a lot of it was hype and, you know, selling the fights, and that was his way of doing it. You know, I mean, that was not my way.
Like I say, you two guys had the sort of the money belts. You were the guys in boxing. Then this other unknown gent came along, George Foreman.
Oh,
now, Ali had to get rid of Quarry and Ellis once again, and he fought George Foreman in '74. Of course, with the Rumble in the Jungle, which you were supposed to be up for, but that didn't quite come off because Ali sort of beat you to that, and Ali wanted to fight this new up-and-coming upstart.
Took away my glory at the time. You know, I wanted to be the one to do it, and you know, you got there first.
But the thing is, you did get your own back. After Ali defeated Foreman in '74, he was world champion. You wanted another pop at you wanted another crack at it. You got it in Manila. 1975. The Thriller in Manila. Now, what was all that about?
Well, that will go down in history as the biggest, best fight of all time. You know, it was exciting. My family, my friends, everybody's up for it. The people were cheering and singing. Oh, yeah, it was a good time, really good time for me. You know, I trained, I got the best I could, I was ready. You know, I thought I could do myself justice, and I was ready to go. And
you did. You gave a good account of yourself there. But unfortunately, you went the distance, but again, your eye was closing. You were definitely jaded by the time it came to the 15th round. And unfortunately, as in '71, it went the full distance, but this time it went against you. You didn't actually win that fight. That bout became known as the final one. Anyway, what we're going to do there, Mr. Frazier, or Smoking Joe, if we can call you that, we're going to leave it for a few moments. We're going to come back to you and talk a little bit more about recent events. So, thanks again, Mr. Frazier. But now we're going straight to a news report about the latest headlines from the year '63, when our friend turned professional.
Hello and welcome to Time Tunnel TV News. Today we have the largest headlines of this year. It has been reported to us today that the United States have been in space during the night. NASA astronaut Commander Alan Bartlett Shepard Jr. climbed aboard the Freedom 7 space capsule to begin his 15-minute journey to leave the Earth's atmosphere at 5,100 miles per hour. Although the commander wasn't the first man into space, he was the first American astronaut to go into space and return safely, which is still a great achievement to the commander himself and for America. A photograph had been taken of President Kennedy telephoning the commander to congratulate him on his success, to have photographic evidence of this truly amazing time in history. He travelled 115 miles into space and landed in the Atlantic 15 minutes later. When he was picked up by the helicopter in this location, the astronaut's first words were, "Boy, what a ride." Although the president was highly grateful for the success of Commander Alan Bartlett Shepard, he did admit he was upset he did not manage to get out of the Earth's atmosphere and back before the Russian rivals. He said, "This is an historic milestone in our own exploration into space." During the flight, the commander was able to maintain contact with ground control, explaining the beautiful views he was luckily able to experience in his lifetime. The final headline we have for you today is reports of the wall being built in Berlin. The East German Democratic Republic have constructed a barrier in Berlin which completely blocks off the West from the East. Competitiveness and aggressiveness eventually turned Germany into West versus East, democracy versus communism. This resulted in living conditions becoming significantly different between the two. West Germany set up a capitalist society, increasing the growth of their economy, named the economic miracle. This enabled them to live well and buy gadgets and appliances with hard work. However, the east side of Germany, run by the Soviet Union, lacked privileges. Freedom was restricted and the economy dragged. The Russians used to steal factory equipment and other valuable assets and ship them back to their homeland. This resulted in many people from the east packing their bags and trying to migrate to the west for a better life. This led to the east losing out on labour force and its population. By today's date, 2.1 million people have fled from the east to the west. The Soviet Union wanted to take over West Germany as well as the east to stop this problem. However, this was easier said than done, so therefore they built a wall to separate the two. Within the night of August the 12th, hundreds of German workers began to build the barrier, separating the east to the west. The wall was complete before the Berliners could awake. They were shocked when they awoke. Whichever side of the barrier they went to sleep on that night, they were stuck on. They could no longer cross the border to go to the shops, to play football, to go to work, or even to see friends and relatives. Even telephone wires between the east and the west were cut, completely separating west from east as the wall wrapped itself around.
There we go, such tragic events and tragic news. Right now, though, we are going to take a quick commercial break. As soon as we get back, we're going to be talking to my mate Joe Frazier for the second half of the interview. So we'll be back in a tic-tac-toe. Welcome back to Time Tunnel TV, where we're lucky enough to still have with us Smoking Joe Frazier, who'll be with us today. I'm hoping you've enjoyed the show so far, and if you have just tuned in, where you been, don't worry, we've got time for the second half of our fantastic interview. So let's get started. I would like to welcome back into the blue corner, Mr. Joe Frazier. Welcome back, sir. How are you still?
I'm very well, pleased, and I'm really delighted to be here.
Right. Okay, so you decided to quit the professional ring shortly after the Thriller in Manila. You were coming up to 32 years of age. What have you been doing with yourself then? I heard, sorry, butting in, you put yourself together in a little band.
Well, you know, it was something I always wanted to do, is being a little bit of a soul band, get the mic, and, you know, even the ladies all getting excited and, you know, spitting a few lyrics. So it's something I tried for a while, and it was good fun while it lasted.
What sort of things did you sing? Was it like the Isaac Hayes sort of stuff, Curtis Mayfield?
I'm quite impressed that you know those sort of people, you know. They were the sort of people we grew up listening to. Isaac Hayes was like a legend, you know, and if I could have get, you know, people to actually enjoy my music as much as him, then that was really a good positive.
The old Walrus of Love there, Barry White, a bit of Gladys Knight, all that sort of. So you were into sort of the before disco took over.
Well, that's the music we grew up with. You know, we only had church music, and so by the time the soul music came out, that's the sort of music we was into. That's what we heard when we went down to the local clubs. And when I was a young kid and not even supposed to be there, we'd be out listening, and that's the sort of music we'd listen to. So it became natural once a mic was in my hand to start, you know.
I mean, obviously, you still kept your finger on the pulse where boxing was concerned. I mean, Ali decided after 78 that was going to be enough. And then Larry Holmes came into it, Michael Spinks and all that lot.
Right, yeah.
And then we never really had what I call a major champion up until the mid-1980s. When a little fighter by the name of Mike Tyson came into frame.
He was bad.
I mean, what do you think of him? Trevor Burbeck was one of the big contenders, yeah.
Well, you know, Mike Tyson was like the sport needed, you know, somebody who could captivate the fans, the world. He was well known. I think he was so fearsome. He won his fights before the fight even came. People knowing they had to fight Mike Tyson, they'd lost the fight before
I
he
mean,
even started.
would you have liked to have fought somebody like Mike Tyson?
Well, you know, I'd have had him a go. I mean, his style and my style, you know, he doesn't lay back, I don't go back. We'd have both been going forward all the time. I'm bobbing and weaving, you know. I'm sure I could have given him as good as I would have got, you know.
I mean, he was, wasn't he? I mean, you had a totally different upbringing to Mike Tyson. He was sort of not dragged up in a sense, but he had the hardcore of the Bronx behind him. You know, he was quite
he was like,
outrageous
this
lad.
is inner city town boy, you know, ghetto. I wasn't ghetto, I was from a farm. I lived on the farm, you know. We was, I mean, I remember growing up on the farm. We had a wild boar, a pig, you call it, yeah?
Yeah,
I remember
we
we used to go and tease the pig, and the pig used to chase me, and it chased me once, and I ran so fast, I fell over, hit my arm on the gate. And that was as a young kid, and from that day, even to now, I've never been able to, you know, see that under that straight? I've never been able to straighten this hand, and, you know.
And what do you think about the inception of television, like movies like Rocky, that were actually made in the time you were fighting the Thriller in Manila?
Well,
75, 76, Sylvester Stallone.
It's fun and entertainment. As long as people see it as that, that's okay. But you know, when people hit you that many times and you still get up, you know.
And then Rocky Marciano, the life story with
Well,
Robert De Niro.
you know,
I mean, how do you feel these fellas portrayed you as boxers?
It does appeal to me because my style was always to, you know, hit you more than you hit me. I was just going to keep coming. Didn't matter what you hit me with, I wouldn't stop. So, you know, I can relate to Rocky because that was the sort of, you know, fight I'd have liked to them.
I mean, I always remember in an interview we had with Frank Bruno, he said he'd love to knock his block off. I mean, how do you rate the British boxers like you Frank Bruno, Lennox Lewis?
Unfortunately, I don't. I mean, that Lennox Lewis, he was a great, you know, he's a legend. I liked his style, you know, he was a good one. Frank, well, the public loved him. To get that sort of love from the public is worth winning any sort of title.
And of course,
you know?
bringing you up to present day, you've got the Klitschko brothers. What do you think of those?
Well, you know what I mean, they're good for the day, but I don't think, none of them wouldn't lasted very long in my era.
Do you think it's lacking now? Do you think we need that one, like an
Well,
Ali or a Frazier or a Larry
know,
Holmes or somebody that can actually take it by the scruff of the neck and make it their own?
I think
again?
so. I mean, historically, most of the heroes, they're poor people, come from poverty, deprivation. They come from, you know, these people now, they're rich, they got money, they're not hungry anymore, you know. When I fought, I was fighting. Yeah, I've made money now, but, you know, the people around me made a lot more money than I made, you know.
Do you think the boxers were harder in your day, in the 60s and the 70s, than they are now? Do you think
we had to be harder, you know? I mean, the medical advances now and the treatments now, you know, you can break your arm and they can fix it, you know, before the end of the round and send you back out there fighting, you know?
Only
very different now.
Yeah, so again, how is your health? As we know, Muhammad Ali's really
well,
suffering now.
You know,
Parkinson's disease.
The doctors say probably my liver, my kidneys, and, you know, I'm not too good, you know. I've got a son there. Trained him for a while boxing, you know, he was, you know, not too bad, but he didn't have the desire like I want. You know, I really wanted it, he didn't want it enough.
I mean, do you actually enthuse to get young people into the sport? I mean, it is a sport.
I think it's always good to discipline, you know, to get people off the streets and involve in something that the whole community can be part of. Yeah, it's good. It's good for yourself, you know, your well-being, growing up.
I mean,
give you direction, a purpose, something to do. There's all lots of positive things that come from boxing.
In certain areas of politics and everything, they say that boxing's like a barbaric sport, but it's much more than that, isn't it? Surely it's about discipline, respect, and everything else. So that's where boxing should. That's what it's all about, really.
You know, I learned a lot about respect in the fight. I only lost 4 fights, you know.
Yeah.
You know, 2 to Muhammad Ali, 2 to George Foreman, and you know, the reality is it's like a chess match. You know, you have to wait for the right time. You have to try and outthink your opponent. You know, you tried something, didn't work. You know, I'd pretend I'm going to drop this. The left.
Well, like you say, it's chess in a way. It's a strategy. It's
very artistic and you know, quite a lot of skill involved. So,
but where a lot of people try to ban it, you know, and one thing and another. But there is a skill and there is an art to it, and it's a very creative.
The amount of happiness, good and money made from boxing, they'll never ban it.
No, I mean, you don't want to drive it underground, that'd be totally the wrong
sports.
thing to
If
do.
you look at all the sports in the world, there is nobody more recognised in the world than the heavyweight champion of the world.
And it's always been the thing for me, heavyweights. Yeah. What do you think of not the lesser weights as such, but your flyweights, your middleweights, your
Well, they're coming through, you know what I mean? We got a lot of good ones there, you know, quite a lot of good ones. They're world champions, they're dedicated to the sport, they give it, they take it. So, you know, you have to hold your hands up to them people, you know. It's not a bad thing. It's
So,
good, yeah.
before we do eventually disappear and you go on stage, because you said you're a singer, you've only made it worse for yourself here. So you're going to do a classic for us very soon. But what's the future for Joe Frazier?
Well, the future is to, you know, try and look after my children, you know, discipline them, learn them right and wrong, you know. We got a gym and we still work with the young kids in the community. We want them to get away from drugs, from crime. We want them to be more directive and become good citizens and part of the community. So that's my legacy, you know, that'll be my legacy.
Absolutely splendid, Mr. Joe Frazier. Put it there. I had an actual bit of a bout there with you. Did you see? He outthought me and outpaced me and outdid everything.
You had a couple of good blows there.
Well, excellent.
Too,
Okay, unfortunately, my friend, that is all we have time for today on Time Tunnel. I hope you've enjoyed the show, because I sure did. Closing the show for us today is Billy Bonzo and Jump Around. Thanks for enjoying this journey with me, and make sure that you can tune in again next time for a bit more Time Tunnel TV.
The house of pain is in effect, y'all. I say the house of pain is in effect. You know the house of pain is in effect, y'all. And anyone that steps up is getting wrecked. And just like the prodigal son, I've returned. Anyone stepping on me, you'll get burned. Cause I got lyrics, but you ain't got none. If you come to battle, bring a shotgun. But if you do, you're a fool, cause I'll do to the death. Trying to step to me, you take your last breath. I got the skill, come get your fill. Cause when I shoot the gift, I shoot the kill. I came to get down, I came to get down. So get out your seat and jump around. Jump around. Jump around. Jump around. Jump up and get down. Jump, 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 everybody jump, 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 I'm the cream of the crop, I rise to the top. I never eat a pig cause a pig is a cop. Or better yet, a Terminator, like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Trying to play me out like as if my name was Sega. But I ain't going out like no punk bitch. Get used to one style AO when I might switch it up and around. Then buck down, put out your head and then you wake up in the dawn of the dead. I'm coming to get ya, I'm coming to get ya. Spitting out lyrics, homie, I with ya. I came to get down, I came to get down. So get out your seat and jump around. Jump around.